Okay. I'm watching. I'm on. All right. So, shalom and welcome to Pursuits of Virtue Class 1, where we seek to explore and convey the characteristics that made men reach their highest levels of internal maturation and strength. And typically, when we think of virtue, it's attributed to women and the traits written of in Proverbs 31. But if you look deeper at the traits described, you'll find a spiritual ardor and intensity that has driven God's creation to do great things. And we desire that. But before we get started, I must welcome my co host, my dear friend, a brother that's been a great example to me as long as I've been in this walk, who stood on honor, has held his integrity, and maintained virtue indeed. Indeed. So my Aki is with me here. Hey, Shalom, can you hear me okay? Okay. Okay. All right. That's all right. That's all right. It happens a little bit of adversity. Um, but Aki is here with me. So once he gets situated, he will come through. He will come through. But to preface why the name is what it is, as far as pursuits of virtue, because this is a topic of great interest to me. Our people, the people of the diaspora, what many people call the truth, it might be your religious practice, the great awakening, so on and so forth. For the last decade or two, we've been inundated with much information, life altering information. We've been able to speak on levels and reach levels you wouldn't have thought would be possible without some level of a spiritual intervention. But in regards to development, culture, ethics, norms, morality within the awakening, I would say it's my observation that there's a great lack. It's become more so, I think, competition when it comes to doctrine, knowledge, just renown. It's the same that it was prior to having the information, but it just takes on a different nature. Not with organizations only, just men in general. And ambition is something that exists in men that desires us, that causes us to desire to want to conquer and vie for dominance. And I do believe, and though to some degree, all of us desire to see our people in a greater state, or any, not only our people, proselytes as well, people who desire to follow the creator. But the question becomes, at what expense? What man, what is a man willing to give up to see his people rise as a dynasty? And I'm not sure. I'm on the quest to conquer that within myself as well. The quest to innocence, freedom from guile, right? So it's the pursuit of virtue, the pursuit of virtue. So join us on the journey. And we're gonna read a few things. It's a conversation really, but we'll read a few scriptures to preface the conversation, go into some other writings and see if it's possible. The question is often posed on this channel: could you teach a man to be honest? Could you teach a man to operate with integrity internally? Right? I'm not sure. So, hey, are you good? Are you able to come through? Okay. Well, the Aki is here. But nevertheless, I want to begin. There was a quote by an author named T.S. Eliot. And what he said was, half the harm that's done in the world is due to people who want to feel important. They don't mean to do harm, but the harm doesn't interest them, or they don't see it, or they justify it because they're absorbed in the endless struggle to think well of themselves. And that's ambition opposed to virtue, right? It's a pursuit we all have. We want to find purpose, but first it begins with self-mastery, right? This is a quest for mastery. This is the pursuit of virtue. So Ak, you here with us. Ak, I just want to introduce you. I appreciate you for being here. It's an honor to continue doing it with you, Ak. So shalom, my brother. How you doing?
Shalom, brother. Shalom, brother. I'm doing very, very good. So it's great to be alongside you on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long journey,
Mm-hmm.
and the Most High has seen us through a jubilee, very significant time and hour. We're in this hour of temptation, and I think that the topic of virtue is beyond the topic, but in fact, something that the elect must desire from within.
Mm-hmm.
From within.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we're going to be able to highlight that today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm on. Indeed.
I'm on.
So yeah, we'll go through a few scriptures, Ak, and speak as you feel moved, because it's something, to where you wonder. I look at vice like this. Vice, if you were to consider, let's say, drunkenness, fornication, adultery, masturbation, these are things that the judgment on them is expedient. So there is a benefit for a man to overcome it, right? There are many people that can overcome these urges based on common sense alone. It's disadvantageous to myself. But when we consider virtue is something that was written of Joseph. It was written of Moses when he was described as the meekest of men. It was written of our Lord, when it was described that he did not even pursue a reputation amongst men at whatsoever. And the scriptures say something. It says, let every man rejoice in his own work, right? And his own ability to conquer himself. It isn't something that would need to be screamed from the mountaintops. It isn't something that would need to be used to vie for dominance over one's people or community. He said, but if a man loves God, then the same is known of him. and that a man should be content with that, right? An internal confidence, you know, virtue, where a man is governed by his own standard for the sake of virtue alone, so and that's something that interests me, when there was nothing in it for Joseph to do right, to not reveal his brothers and the ploy that was against him. You wonder that growing up in the West, I've adopted a mindset. Growing up young, it was competition, right? It was whatever to get me. I've protected myself. That's, it keeps you alive. It's self-preservation. And then you look at cultures where you see men that aren't from the West, when you see cultures where it's a collectivist community, and you see a man can truly adopt the plea of his neighbor, of his brother. They say it's no greater love than what the Messiah did when there was nothing in return. So I desire that. I desire it. It's a topic of interest. The development of a culture, of a people, to be restored to honor. It's something. So, join us on the journey as we pursue virtue and overcome ourselves. Join us. All right. So we'll begin. If you had a few scriptures, we'll go to 2 Peter chapter 1. It isn't a Bible class, but you want all your conversations to be with reason and rationale. We're Bible people, so you ground it with the logic of the scriptures. Right. All right, yeah, we'll go to 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 4. And so what the conversation today is, the distinction between virtue and knowledge. They're two different things. They're two different things, whereas the pursuit, when a person would come into the knowledge, the awakening, it becomes, let me find out as much information as out there, and I'll go champion it as my own, and I will rise to prominence. I will conquer. So in the world, we did it with cars, you did it with money, you did it with accomplishments, you did it with degrees. So now we come with similar deficiencies, similar urges, but the vehicle changes. The vehicle changes. All right. So we're gonna look at the distinction between the two, the distinction between virtue and knowledge, and exactly what virtue is. So we're in 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 4.
Okay, you're gonna have to bring that out. I don't have my hard copy.
Okay. Oh, so you needed me to maybe stream it.
I thought you were streaming it.
Okay, pull the scriptures up. I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but I will get with Brother Gabar to do that. So I am this is 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 4. Okay. And it reads, whereby are given unto us great and precious promises, that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. And besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge. What do you say to that?
Well, the first thing, when I think of virtue, it brings me back to the image of the Most High. Right? So Adam was formed from the dust of the ground. And no different than each man, having had in times past experienced trials and errors and gotten his hands dirty. Right? But the Most High, if he was called that man from where he was and begin to form him into his image again. And one of those characteristics that man is going to desire is virtue, because virtue is a form of godliness. It's a form of godliness. Coming back to the image of the Most High. When we say virtue, we have to understand what that embodies. that emboldens a man to war against himself
Mm,
so that he can be what he is on his journey to be. Because every stage you have to level up.
mm,
Every stage you have to level up.
mm,
And so that's what virtue is to me. It's a form of godliness
mm,
without guile.
mm. Yeah.
And when the Most High created man, man was good,
Mm,
right? Every man had trial and errors, but we all want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We're not going to get there without implementing the exercises necessary to access the spirit from within so that we can demonstrate into the world the restoration of the image of the Most High.
Mm.
You have the image of the beast, and you have the image of the Most High.
I'm on. I'm on. Yes, sir.
Come on.
Indeed. Indeed. Virtue. Right. So, and it spoke to being partakers of a divine nature. You know, when you spoke to godliness, you know, self mastery, a man being able to conquer himself, conquer vice, ambition, lust, first internally. And it says, besides this, give all diligence and add to the faith the awakening, virtue, and then to virtue, knowledge. So there's a distinction between the two, right? And we're touching on it today. So
Right.
once finding the knowledge of Christ and the Most High, what many refer to as the truth, what many refer to as the truth, right? A man must first to be taught and pursue virtue, which means moral excellence. And this is expressed through discipline, honesty, chastity, humility, sincerity, and mastering oneself. Once attained first, then only should he pursue knowledge, which is doctrine, theology, and the theoretical understanding that is as important, but you must be careful to follow this protocol. And this is why Men Going God's Way has developed a practical, pragmatic system of the development of a man and steps the man must meet. Whereas within our community, and when I speak to our community, I mean those that are in the same religious practice, a person that would know who we trace back to biblically. I'm not speaking to outside of it. It's become a knowledge fest like the Pan-African community, but quite different, to where if a man comes into this knowledge, the first thing, right, he would desire to do is download as much information that he can without it being applicable in his life. However, the point of the scriptures is to embody it, to be it. Those were the men that were written of, that overcame themselves. So next, I want to go to, let's go to Sirach. Let's go to Sirach 3 and 21. We're going to go through a few scriptures, and then we'll get into the meat of the lesson. But one must become a practicer of virtue, right? So Sirach 3 and 21 says this: seek not out the things that are too hard for thee, neither search the things that are above thy strength. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men understand. So when it speaks to things that are too hard for a man, it would not be frowned upon at all within our community as it stands right now for a man to have excessive deficiencies and then go out and then pursue a work as far as teaching, instructing others, being a liaison for the creator. In other cultures, you don't see this. For a man to have a level of renown or respect amongst his community, For a man to be a general in the military, he must have gone to war. The whole point of the scriptures is for one to conquer himself. So it says there are more things shown unto us than we understand. So for many men, it is a constant battle, right? It's rocket science to not fall to lust, right? But men speak of the mysteries of the heavens, not having conquered themselves. So the scripture says there's more things shown unto you than you actually understand. But yet, it's within a man, it's his ambition to desire to figure out calculus before learning how to divide. But the scripture says, be not curious in unnecessary matters, because it means nothing to you as it stands. For more things are shown unto thee than men understand. For many are deceived by their own vain opinion, and an evil suspicion hath overthrown their judgment. Without eyes thou shalt want light. Profess not the knowledge, therefore, that thou hast not. Because anything that a man can't embody, it isn't a knowledge that he possesses. If you can't do it, it isn't something you possess. Now you can speak on a thing. You can speak on a thing, but it's only theory with no application. So the scriptures say, without eyes, thou shalt want light, meaning a step by step basis, right? If a man lost his eyesight, he would learn to see. So if a man is overcoming fault or deficiencies, unable to, let's say, work a job, unable to bring his body into subjection, unable to build his home, like the scripture speaks about in 1 Timothy 3. How could a man care for his nation of people? How could a man care for the church not having subjected and brought under subjection his own home? Even though, I agree, and I could not undo the fact the scriptures tell us, look, polygamy is not unlawful, right? It is not a sin. But the man worthy of it, that's a great thing. So I would not sit and ponder perpetually on the topic, because without eyes a man would want light. So for men, for us, first the thing is becoming finer than the gold of Ophir, right? Sure, we live in a day of liberal women that don't take accountability, but men neither. You know what I mean? Men neither. So in developing a culture, right? Honorable men, it starts at home, and in a figurative way as well, right? A man conquering himself, his home, his vessel, discipline.
And let's say that. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say that, right? The diet of a man,
Mm,
the diet of a man, and what a man is willing to put inside of his body and what he's willing to do to manufacture his body's
mm,
being built, that is one of overcoming the flesh that most men can't conquer. They
mm,
want to build muscles, but they can't,
mm,
right? They want to build muscles, but they can't. Or they want to lose weight, but they can't,
mm,
right? But they want to teach.
mm,
1 Timothy, I believe it is 4 and 11 says, for physical training is of some profit is of some,
mm,
right?
mhm,
But trained to be godly.
mm.
But trained to be godly. For it is a profit of this life and the life to come,
Mm. I'm on.
right? And that's what you're talking about.
Mhm.
You're saying, guys, look, before you can even really get your house in order, your wife is looking at you like, where are those muscles I love so much,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Where's that energy that you used to have? You're letting yourself go.
mm,
The meals aren't as nutritious because a man is not taking the time to manufacture himself on a very pragmatic level.
mhm,
Be careful the reading of many books.
mm.
Just sitting there and reading books is not building up your temple. it can become information overload. That's what Solomon was saying.
Yeah.
That is actually a condition, and they're saying
Wow.
that it's a moderate condition.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, Solomon said that.
Mm.
Okay, information overload.
Right. Right. Indeed. Indeed. Show the book. Be the book. Right? I don't want to talk about these books. And I will, right? You and I talk, right? We talk a
Yes,
lot.
sir.
And
Yes,
and
sir.
and and sure, theoretical understanding is of interest, but where it's understood. But to vie in these ways, it's when it becomes excessive to uh for men masking deficiencies and overcompensating in other areas. We have to build here, and that's why 1 Timothy 3, the tenets and men going God's way, that's the mystery. That's really what it is. It's 1 Timothy 3, right? When it's telling you, and that's what it was. All the things that they knew, Paul is like, okay, man's finance have to be in order, right? His wife have to be in subjection. But those are very difficult things. When the man that has a wife that it does not scorn him because he tricked her and was mentally weak and fragile, and sees the work ethic, sees how he's a force alone, and conquers the world. That's where the respect comes from. So these are the steps that a man of truth would deal with, and this is virtue. This is the embodiment of the scripture. But the barbershop conversations of which angel accomplished this, that this isn't the zone, and these things don't come from nowhere. You know what I mean? Those of us in men going God's way, we've had these scenarios where it was clear. Look, meet the tenets and we'll discuss theology. Meet the tenets, but show your belief through your action. That's gonna be a formidable force when we speak about in the scriptures how 10 men would flee from one, because a man finer than the gold of Ophir is worth many men. He's worth many men. So that would not really be that far-fetched. There's trained military platoons today that'll tell you, yes, 12 of us could immobilize a country, a small country.
Country, a
Yeah.
small country,
Yeah, different
like
factions.
Venezuela.
Yes, yeah, different factions in the U.S. military is possible, but it doesn't come by seeing who's the deepest, who can read the most lost books, read the Torah, right, right.
Right. These are individual men,
Mm-hmm.
individual men who have taken on the task of mastering themselves, so that when they are in position to fulfill their duties to the fullest, there is without any question whether or not they're going to complete the mission. Complete the mission alone.
Mm.
Together, but alone.
Mm. A
Right?
force.
A force. A force. Like that.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're alone, but a force. Right?
Indeed. Indeed.
Indeed.
Martial arts. These are necessary tenets where man would have to, in his actions, show humility. It's difficult to lose. It's difficult to be handled. But humility, now a man has to face himself, see what he did wrong. It's easy now in an era where it's like everyone can have an opinion or a solution and not consider that it's only as good as what you can prove tangibly. Prove it, right? And it's a force. The tenets would force a man to think that way, right? So that's what we're doing. So I want to go into another writing here. I'm going to share my screen so that way you can read it. Okay, let me see here. Okay. All right, let me see.
Okay. Whenever you're ready up.
Okay, I'm sharing it now because it's interesting literature on this, that our people, the early church, that was mandatory. You know, the doctrines or the secrets, they would have been hidden. You know, they it wouldn't have just been, and that's unfortunate to a degree, because now everything is out there. So now everybody becomes, everybody dabbles in the theology or the knowledge without first being practiced in the virtue or the embodiment. So this is something from Clement, right? The Precepts of Clement. This is an interesting read here.
Okay.
I'm sharing my screen. Okay, from beginning. Okay.
Okay.
What do you see, Ak? You just see a PowerPoint?
I see the precepts of Clement. Yes, sir.
Can you read it okay?
I can read it. Okay.
Okay.
There is some this we'll work with it, and if you need to clear something up, let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
You how's that?
Because there is some line work. Okay. Yeah, you cleared up some things.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Excellent work. Yes, sir. Okay. So this reads the precepts of Clement, exhortation to endurance. Oh, what's going on here?
Okay, what you see something else?
Okay, yes, sir. I see YouTube Premium. Okay, I see what you're doing.
Okay, let me
I'm seeing the OBS.
okay, let me stop
I'm
that.
seeing transition there. What I want to see is the screen, not me on it, but so that maybe the viewers can see what we're reading as well.
Okay. Let me
Because
see.
I'm going to get a little close to read it because of my lighting and my screen
Yes, sir.
in this studio.
Okay.
Hmm. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So 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 is the screen black on your side? I'm getting that the screen is black.
Okay, you getting the black screen?
No, I don't have a black screen. Elder Gabal just said that the screen is black. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right.
I'm seeing it here.
Okay. All right. I'll read. It's fine. Okay. All right. So what we have here is Precepts of Clement, exhortation to endurance, or to the newly baptized. Precepts of Clement. Cultivate quietness in word, quietness in deed, likewise in speech and in gait, and avoid impetuous eagerness, for then the mind will remain steady and will not be agitated by your eagerness, and so become weak and of narrow discernment and see darkly. Nor will it be worsted by gluttony, worsened by boiling rage, worsted by the other passions, lying a ready prey to them. For the mind, seated on a high and quiet throne, looking intently towards God, must control the passions, by no means be swept away by temper and burst of anger, nor be sluggish in speaking, nor all nervousness in movement, so that your quietness may be adorned by good proportion, and your bearing may appear something divine and sacred. Guard also against the signs of arrogance, a haughty bearing, a lofty head, a dainty and high treading footstep. Let your speech be gentle toward those you meet, and your greetings kind. Be modest towards women, and let your glance be turned to the ground. Be thoughtful in all your talk, and give back a useful answer, adapting the utterance to the hearer's need, just so loud that it may be distinctly audible, neither escaping the ears of the company by reason of feebleness, nor going to excess with too much noise. Take care never to speak what you have not weighed and pondered beforehand, nor interject your own words on the spur of the moment and in the midst of another's. For you must listen and converse in turn, with set times for speech and for silence. Learned gladly and teach ungrudgingly. Never hide wisdom for others by reason of a grudging spirit, and through false modesty stand aloof from instruction. Submit to elders just as the fathers. Honor God's servants. Be first to practice wisdom and virtue. Do not wrangle with your friends, nor mock at them and play the buffoon. Firmly renounce falsehood, guile, and insolence. Endure in silence as a gentle and high minded man, the arrogant and insolent. What do you think, God? You said cultivate quietness in word and in deed, likewise in speech and gait. So that's interesting because it says cultivate quietness in word and in deed, likewise in speech and in how you walk, where quietness is usually associated with a lack of words, but it speaks to indeed, likewise in speech and in gait. So that's describing an inner calm, a self control, an extreme discipline, unrattled, unmoved, firm internally. What say you,
Right, right. And we've seen men stand this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
They believe themselves to be exuding, demonstrating some level of humility,
Mm.
right? But at the same time, a lot of these tenets cannot be pragmatic if you don't take a son and instead of taking a son and giving him a soccer ball or a football or a basketball, but teach your son an art form, a martial art form,
Mm.
because your son will need to be able to face himself.
Mm.
That fear, that internal fear that men face, when some men, I've even seen when a woman gets in their face,
Mm.
the fear in them,
Mm.
right? As if they couldn't just, you know, calm the sister if they needed to,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? I've seen men get so frustrated, right, that they just want to pulverize the sister,
Mm.
right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at a young age, the father was not there to say, son, you're going to have to face yourself.
Mm.
See, we're taught to face opponents. But you said something earlier, and that is the humility that it takes to be handled when you are training, to be handled. Have you ever had and this is just a rhetorical question, but I can ask many men this. Have you ever had a female sparring partner?
Mm.
That's humbling.
Mm. Mm.
That is humbling,
Mm.
especially when she's good.
Mm.
Okay?
Yes.
And that really does help a man, and I'm going to use this for the lack of terms, channel
Mm.
his inner self
Mm.
so that he can, so what is necessary for him to have come out each and every time,
Mm.
you want it to be a reflex. We want it to be a reflex,
Mm.
not something that we have to pull out,
Mm.
but something that comes out.
Mm.
Right? We didn't have to force it. It just came.
Right. Mm.
So that's a talent. These are the things that Yasha was saying we need to do right with these things.
Mm.
These are, you don't bury these.
Mm. Mm.
Every man has it within.
Mm.
So whether your father was not there, okay, Clement is saying
Mm.
you need to get on board before you can get on code.
Mm.
Every man want to be a part of the code, but he hasn't even faced himself yet.
Mm. Indeed. Indeed.
the greatest fear of of what is that self? That's the fear of failure.
Mm.
If you are handled, will you lose? Like you don't gotta win every time. Sometimes it's good
Mm.
to lose.
Man.
You learn great things
Mm.
when you are, you know, most fights are not won through it by knockout.
Mm.
Most fights are won by submission.
Mm.
So when you learn what it means to be handled, and you have to submit, tap out, then you begin to conquer something within. And I see why the principles are so essential for building up a man
Mm-hmm.
today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Clement was on to something,
he was on to
and
it.
I'm thankful that you're bringing this out.
Um,
I
uh,
have more, but please go ahead.
yeah,
Please go ahead.
yeah. Please, and it speaks to, it says, for the mind seated on a high and quiet throne must control the passions, must control the passions, the vices. And it's something when you speak about losing in martial arts to then bow. I'm familiar with certain schools, and I do that with my children. The loser bows because you have
Right.
to acknowledge the deficiency. I came up short, and pay homage to the greater.
Come
Pay
on.
homage to the greater, and it develops a level of thought, a level of reflection that is needed for one to conquer themselves. It speaks to, and you think it is a lot of the traits that one is that we desire to have, like if excessive self control. It's not a coincidence. Even Paul, he would make references to athletes because when you think of a black belt, they're doing it on a physical plane. In and of itself, it's virtue of mastery of even in much success to still say, okay, look, it's a new day. I'm back in the gym. I'm not perfect. I'm back building this muscle or that muscle. And it's the same, but we're dealing on a spiritual plane. But right now, with the tenets manifesting it in the physical. And it says, let your speech be gentle toward those you meet. And something that's funny to me, I think about the time when Samuel, when he before he elected Saul, he had to make an address to the people. Josephus elaborates on the speech more. The Bible typically does that with an overview. And it was such an important time in the formation of Israel. So before, Samuel had to address the people. And when he addressed them, he didn't say, you all know that I'm the greatest among you. I'm the most spiritual. I remember and I recite the Torah. I pray the most. No, he said, have I taken anything that didn't belong to me? Have I wronged any of you? Have I been honest and judged righteously in subjection and in service to the people? These were the things he was asking him. And everyone said yes. I mean, no. They're like, no, you've only done right by us all. And he's saying, okay, right, because I'm about to select the king. And once I do, there'll be factions. Some people won't accept this kingship, but to avoid civil war, right? I'm setting the stage right now. It's all, and we know, the Most High had the selection, but he was doing that, right? He was he
Let me
was
ask you.
okay.
Let me
Go
ask
ahead.
you a question. Do
Indeed.
you think that he was actually asking a question? Because I believe
Mm,
what Clement is doing here also by saying gentle,
mm,
is just when someone speaks to you, you can tell the difference between someone who is a careful thinker, so they're more thoughtful
mm,
about what they are saying, right? So
mm-hmm,
that gentle isn't soft
mm,
or like some people come across as this false humility. Yeah, brother. Hey, sister.
mm,
Nah, that gentleness is saying you're you're steady
mm,
and you're thoughtful.
mm,
You're thinking about what you say to convey the best way for this person possible.
mm,
And people appreciate that because that's how you build rapport.
Mm,
You see what I'm saying?
mm,
So that's what I was saying about Saul.
mm,
Saul was saying, not asking a question that was
yeah.
rhetorical.
Mm,
He was inducing thought
mm,
so that they could be very careful about how they responded,
mm, mm,
right?
yeah.
Because obviously, many of them, if they're operating that way, they have been saying things contrary in the background,
Mm,
right? We
yeah.
already know that.
Mm, mm,
That's how it goes,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Indeed.
There's
Indeed.
room to speculate.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Indeed. I mean, yeah. I would imagine so because they had
Hmm.
issues when his sons had become the priest. So I imagine so. It's like, yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah. And so now this is more. This is more Clement, right? And it's the instructor, book 1, chapter 1, and it's the office of the instructor. And so he says, the instructor being practical, not theoretical. His aim is thus to improve the soul, not to teach, and to train it up to a virtuous, not to an intellectual life. Although this same word is didactic, but not in the present instance. So he says he's separating the two. The instructor being practical, not theoretical, not stayed upon things that do not affect and develop a man's life. It says his aim is thus to improve the soul, not to teach, but to train it up to a virtuous, not an intellectual life. Although the same word is didactic, meaning they both relate to teaching, hypothetically, but not in the present instance. For the word which, in matters of doctrine, explains and reveals, is that whose province it is to teach. But our educators, being practical, first exhort to the attainment of right dispositions and character, and then persuades us to the energetic practice of our duties, enjoining on us pure commandments, and exhibiting to such as come after the representations of those who formerly wandered in error. Right? So rather than in matters of doctrine, which explains and reveals, but rather teaching people proper character. And the question has been posed. Last week on the Sabbath, we were going into Matthew 5, and where the blessings, right, or the beatitudes, the blessings, were given to certain people, and we were tossing these ideas around, and I was adamant about that these things dealt only with the internal development of one's character. Even when it says, blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, oftentimes this can be perceived as, man, I just want to read. I just want to watch the lesson. I just want to do things that could sometimes be perceived as righteousness and obedience. That is important. That is important. But it says, enjoining on us pure commandments, right? In the attainment of right dispositions and character, right? What say you? You good?
I am. Give me
Okay.
1 second, okay?
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have to adjust this clock.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just got
Okay.
a warning there.
Yes, sir. Okay. And it says, such as come after representations of those who formerly wandered in error. Both are of the highest utility, that which assumes the form of counseling to obedience, and that which is presented in the form of example, which latter is of two kinds, corresponding to the former duality, the one having for its purpose that we should choose and imitate the good, and the other that we should reject and turn away from the opposite. Hence, accordingly, ensues the healing of our passions, Passions are vices or lust, right? In consequence of the assuagements of those examples, the pedagogue, right, the ultimate teacher and trainer, whom we know, strengthening our souls, and by his benign commands, as by gentle medicines, getting the sick to the perfect knowledge of the truth. There is a wide difference between health and knowledge, for the latter is produced by learning, the former by healing. One who is ill will not therefore learn any branch of instruction till he is quite well. For neither to learners nor to the sick is each injunction invariably expressed similarly, but to the former in such a way as to lead to knowledge, and to the latter to health. And to be pretty clear, what it's saying is, if a person has cancer, he wouldn't desire to know chemistry, right? And so in the same way, we have to view our passions as such. Without eyes, thou shalt want light. We read that in Sirach. If we still battle vices, what happens is, and I'm walking the line of mentioning it, but what happens is religion is always used for broken people to overcompensate the deficiencies that they have in real life. And then it becomes a thing where a certain delusion comes where a person can say, I failed at all of those things because the Most High wanted me to do this. That can't be confirmed in the scripture. 1 Timothy 3, these were all practical things. Moses, the Messiah, all of the great men, they conquered themselves. And that's the hardest thing to do. Whereas for many people, this thing has become the easy way out. We dealt with it, and that's become the culture of the awakening, right? And we dealt with it. You know, we've dealt with it with them men going God's way, and it was like, no, brother, that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to see who can quote the most lost books. Complete the workout. Complete the workout, and it isn't to be mean. It isn't to be rude. But we've seen it. We've seen where that goes when it becomes a barbershop conversation. But now we're saying no. We're gonna make a change. We're gonna put a dent in this thing. But every man has to make an extreme level of commitment to conquer himself, and that's difficult to do. It's difficult to do. What say you, Ak?
Well said. Well said. I think we were thinking of the same scenario. Um, there's a saying that no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And here at M.G.G.W, we don't care how much you know until we know how much you care about yourself. And that's laid out there in the tenets. That's laid out there in the household. And everything will be made plain in plain sight. So it's just a matter of time. So you can't come. We can't come with this I have a knowledge of the truth. So I want to participate. That's not it. This is a journey. It's men going God's way. This is a quest for mastery. See, this is a direction. Again, I'm going to say it. This is men going God's way. This is a quest for mastery. This is a journey. This is a journey. And so every man, you don't take it, you don't start going on a journey without putting one foot in front of the other. What am I saying? It's very simple. You physically moved your foot to get to the next place. So don't be surprised when we're saying, hey, we want 100 push-ups. We want 52 push-ups in less than a minute.
Right.
We want 100 squats. We want 20 straight pull-ups. We don't care what you know.
Yeah. Indeed.
No offense.
No offense. Right. Yes, sir.
And so, and there's not, and that's why it's a strong foundation for men to understand. Like, Now I understand what is being taught right now about virtue. Now I understand. Because it's not just these brothers saying it. It was said by the early church fathers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is restoration.
Mm.
Okay, this is Jeremiah 6 and 16.
Mm.
Going to the old paths,
Mm.
the old ways. Okay? That way it saveth our souls. We need to go to the old paths.
Mm.
Double honors to the elders that understand that, that have been teaching that, to the brothers that are walking it down, to the pastors, to the brothers.
Yes, sir.
Because we're in this day and we're in this hour.
Mm. Indeed. 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 Man, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll continue reading here. It says, as then, for those of us who are diseased in body, a physician is required. So also those who are diseased in soul require a pedagogue to cure our maladies, and then a teacher to train and guide the soul to all requisite knowledge when it is made able to admit the revelation of the word, eagerly desiring then to perfect us by a graduation conducive to salvation, suited for efficacious discipline, a beautiful arrangement, and it is observed by the all benignant word who first exhorts, then trains, and finally teaches. Who first exhorts, right? That's your faith, right? Who first exhorts, then trains, right? Add to your faith virtue, and finally teaches, right? So that's the distinction between the practice and then the theory. So after receiving the faith, one is first taught and trained in virtue. And now I'm going to read 1 Thessalonians 4 and 11. And it reads, and that ye study to be quiet and to do your own business and to work with your own hands, that ye may walk honestly toward them that are without, and you may have lack of nothing. And I'm going to read it in the Amplified Bible too. It says,
Please.
and to make it your ambition to live quietly and peacefully, and to mind your own affairs and work with your own hands, just as we directed you, so that you will behave properly toward outsiders, exhibiting good character, personal integrity, and moral courage worthy of the respect of the outside world, and be dependent on no one and in need of nothing, being self-supporting. So, again, it's written that our ambition be to live quietly and peacefully, at least for a time, to develop and cultivate the traits necessary prior to the teaching or the higher instructions. Also, that we are not dependent on anyone or in need of anything. So imagine living in your mother's basement or off of your wife, but professing to understand the mysteries of God. Would not the Most High have revealed these things to you beforehand? And that's why the tenets of men going God's way, that's showing to a degree when the scripture speaks of Noah, Job being perfect in their habitations. It doesn't mean without error, but it means having reached a level of maturation in their path on their journey to be to be considered finer than the gold of Ophir. 1 Corinthians 4 says the kingdom of God is not in word, but in power. That isn't a spiritual thing, right? Paul speaking, saying you have to actually demonstrate the belief that we claim to have. So martial arts, physically fit, charity, financially fit, trades, skills, those are the metrics to prove a man's belief, right? Ahmad, you still here with me? I lost your camera. Okay. Well, it's all right. I'm gonna read Philo here. Okay. And so this is not new. This is not new as far as the distortion between the two. The distortion between the two. But Philo of Alexandria on flight and finding, it reads, this is the question. Have you then first exercised yourselves in and directed your attention to the public and the private business of life, and having become skillful politicians and experienced economists by means of the kindred virtues of economical and political science, have you, in your exceeding abundance of these things, prepared for your migration to another and a better kind of life? For it is proper to go through a practical life before beginning the theoretical one, as being a sort of rehearsal of the more perfect contest and exhibition. In this way, it is possible to escape from the charge of hesitation and indolence, meaning that makes it possible to not get in a position of authority over your people and make wrong judgments because you've practiced the things in your daily life and you are now prepared for it. Thus, and also an express injunction is given to the Levites to fulfill their works till the time that they are 50 years of age, and after they are released from all active ministrations to consider and contemplate each particular thing, receiving as a reward their well-doing in active life, another life which delights only in knowledge and contemplation. And at other times, it is necessary that those who think themselves worthy to claim the just things of God should first of all fulfill their human duties. For it is great folly to expect to attain to what is of greater importance while one is unable properly to discharge what is of less consequence. First of all, therefore, be ye known for your virtue among men, that you may also become established by that which relates to God. This is the advice which perseverance gives to the man inclined to the practice of virtue. But we must examine her several expressions with accuracy. Did you miss that out?
Probably the first half or so,
Okay.
but it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I had some interruptions here.
Okay. Well, Ak, I want to read something for you, and I want to hear your thoughts. Right. So,
Please.
this is Philo of Alexandria, and he says, "Have you then first exercised yourselves then, and directed your attention to the public and the private business of life, and having become skillful politicians and experienced economists by means of the kindred virtues of economical and political science, have you in your exceeding abundance of these things prepared for your migration to another and a better kind of life. For it is proper to go through a practical life before beginning in the theoretical one, as being a sort of rehearsal of the more perfect contest and exhibition. In this way, it is possible to escape from the charge of hesitation and indolence. Thus, also, an express injunction is given to the Levites to fulfill their works till the time that they are 50 years of age, and after they are released from all active ministrations to consider and contemplate each particular thing, receiving as a reward for their well doing in active life another life which delights only in knowledge and contemplation. And at other times, it is necessary that those who think themselves worthy to claim the just things of God should first of all fulfill their human duties. For it is great folly to expect to attain to what is of greater importance while one is unable properly to discharge what is of less important, of less consequence. First of all, therefore, be known for your virtue among men, that ye may also become established by that which relates to God. This is the advice which perseverance gives to the man inclined to the practice of virtue, but we must examine her several expressions with accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Well, perseverance, right? The ability to work hard and make your dreams come true, even in the face of adversity. So it ended that way because it's Philo made it very plain. Something that we all have said. When we're in school, we don't learn the law, we don't learn taxes, and you can ask most people today, probably been many 20 years, they can't tell you what economics are, right? It has not become something personal to them. But when a man is embarking on this journey and he's beginning to explore and develop a worldview, and if he wants any kind of status within his community, as you should have a positive status in your community, uh, you have to consider these things. You know, a lot of the crime that just entrenches our communities is because simply because our children don't know what the law really is, what it's there for. They know some of the consequences, but they really don't understand the severity of understanding that, right? And so you see the lack of children who understand law, right? We see that on just we see that within ourselves in the truth when you know, hey man, I'm eating that. Wow, look how much it changes a house once y'all stop eating something. Economics, right? The scarcity of things, the scarcity of resources, right? That no one really thinks about. And the fact that you have to make an individual decision, and your individual decision is going to it's going to indirectly affect me whether you believe it, know it, or not. That's what economics is. The fact that we all make and have to make an individual decision that whether we understand it or not, it affects everyone around you. Right? So your choice to buy a certain item is it's going to affect everyone around you. You take it off the shelf. When you buy it, there now develops a demand for that item. Right? So they're either going to make more of it based on the demand, or it's going to, or they're not. And so now you're taking it made scarcity. Right? And economics is something that's critical that we have to begin to think about when we're taking this step into maturation.
Indeed.
You have to think about these things.
Indeed.
Right?
Absolutely. And what was spoken of there, and Philo was in a time in Egypt, right? We didn't have a land, so we have to consider our sons, our daughters. It isn't a thing where the focus to build a people, to build a community, is on teaching our children doctrines and tables of nations and judgments. It's them mastering what was written here, a private life, economist, right? Economist, knowing, okay, if we become autonomous within a land, the dispersal and spreading out of goods and being able to be sustained, being able to farm and do agriculture and make tangible use of these things, make tangible use of them. Political science, knowing the influence over groups of people, law, lawyer, so on, STEM, engineering, mathematics. These are things to master. It's not for books to be for everything to be closed, and the merit of a person is how many, the newest doctrine. Nah, it's the development of a people. And this is what Philo is posing. Have you not mastered those things, but yet
Right.
you seek to stand in the things of God? We have to rethink what the scriptures drive us to do. And we should be producing. It's you have fast for grants out here. Men can go back and get degrees easy, knowing what we know now. Where now brothers have an ability to study, a tolerance. Go back and allow your faith to produce something. Nehemiah was a governor. He was a governor in
That's
another
right.
kingdom. Did the systemic change you could get? Imagine if a brother becomes a warden. Come on, bro. You become a warden of a
Hmm.
prison, and that's
Right.
where, that's where the focus has to be, to really do a work. It can't, everything can't be, and to be honest with you, to be overly religious is easy. It's no consequence, right? There's a book I have, Thomas Sowell, it's Intellectuals in Society, where he describes intellectuals. These are people to where the end product is an idea, right? Engineers, right? If you build in a building, right, a doctor, you make one mistake, malpractice, you out of there. A price chopper fault, well, I don't, Price Chopper is regional. Publix, Winn-Dixie, Kroger, depending on where you live, Walmart. Everybody knows Walmart. If it falls down and caves in on somebody's head, you out of there, right? But a lot of people run to activism, right? Ex drug dealers, right? You people run to these things because it's an easy path to renown without actual tangible works, dedication. But
Hmm.
in true service, it's gonna
Construction.
take the minds being developed in our children, our sons and our daughters, engineers. You're gonna need structures to house people, right? Engineers, agricultural science, mass farming, textiles, to be able to produce these things tangible for our people. And that's going to take virtue because it's delayed gratification, right? It's a service. And where our people, we're in the West, the lowest context culture there is, we've been taught individualism, every man for himself. And now we
That's
have to
right.
go back to Eastern thought,
Hmm.
right? To build up a people to benefit one another. And it's gonna take men, right, being forged in a situation like this, and one man saying, all right, give me 5 years, I'll come back with a law degree. Right. I had this together. I got my AA back here. I gotta go finish this up. All right, cool. All right, give me 4 years. I'll become a master coder so we can mobilize it and still be able to generate finances in other countries. Right. Okay, I'll go for agricultural science. Right now the
Right.
money is
Right.
being put
Right.
where the mouth is, man. It's not
That's
just
right.
coming to theoretically speak about scriptures as if they're Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something of the nature, right? That isn't what this is. It's a work. And that's why those type of behaviors are shunned within the org. Nah, it's works. It's saying, look, we starting out, we working out. It's income requirements. If not, brothers have businesses. Those things are in place. And if you willing to learn, the information will be translated. But we believe in the Bible so much so we're saying we aren't gonna we aren't gonna judge by talking about it, but by proving it, by embodying it, right? And that's what Philo is posing. He said this is why the Levites were released from their ministrations when they were 50 years of age, and men would go sit on the Sanhedrin and just speak to the
Right.
scriptures and different things that would better the people on those levels. But until then, it's service. Levites were lawyers, officers, doctorates of the law, doctorates of the law.
Precisely.
Yeah, so this is what the class is about. Just wanted to preface it to bring a small brick to change the mind to where we don't just want to build a community where this thing becomes religious discourse. Look at the other cultures. Look at Islam. Look at Judaism. They still they're talking. What becomes the norm is children being accepted into the law schools. Don't allow these lower level understanding of scriptures such as the simple to confound the wise and these things to make men be okay with degeneracy. That isn't what the scriptures are saying, right? Oh, no, man. No, we have to raise up our people and demonstrate it, right? The kingdom does not come by observation. We're going to have to do a work. It's not going to be easy, right? A man is going to have to face himself, the quest for self-mastery. We know our own weaknesses, and we can't continue to hide them and then just want to talk about polygamy. You know, it's like, man, what it took in the ancient world to have one wife. Literally, what it would have taken: dowries, land. It's not no leader is waiting, is no leader is spending the time critiquing the followers and the servants. They're leading by example. Even and I believe it's a reason why in the scriptures, when they write of when Saul first came into his leadership, people, they did not agree with it. But how was it proven? By his own exploits when he went to war. David first came into leadership, wasn't accepted, but what did he do? He demonstrated. Even Solomon, in a time of peace, what did he do? He showed an understanding of the law and shrewdness to be able to lead the people. It was always by example. It was never just theoretical. It was always by example, tangible fruits, proving oneself. And that's what we're doing. It's enough talking. This is not a rendition of the conscious community where we spend times, debating.
Having
Discourse, right? Those is the brothers in Acts 16. And look, I mean, polite, as intelligent as that brother is, look what he's going through now. That's what happens. That's low level. It's demonstration. It's businesses. A man putting his head down, leaving the corporate world, right? Getting a trade, mastering the trade, going through an apprenticeship, biting his lip, learning again to be empowered and be autonomous. That's what this is. It's the building. It is not in word, but in power, demonstration. What say you, bro? It's getting late. I just had a few scriptures because I really wanted to set the stage on the pursuits of virtue, bro.
No, and I'd have to say you did that. I'd have to say you did that. These are not expectations. These are not expectations. This is just what it is, right? It said that to expect something from somebody would just let you down. All right, so we aren't expecting anything. We're saying, just do it. Just do it.
Indeed,
it's a journey.
It's a journey.
So you did it,
I'm on, and we wish everyone well. We appreciate you. We're pursuing virtue to be finer than the gold of Ophir. Right? We all come. We're in the West, man. We don't come from legacies. We don't come from perfection, right? Vanity is in a man, right? Whatever the things we pursued before, but now we cleaning our way, right? We cleaning our way, and we going back to where it was brotherhood. It was submission for a greater goal, to be free from guile, right? When the scripture speaks about the elect being the 144 being free from guile, that's what we desire. It's the pursuits of virtue and all the traits that displays, the conquering of the animal. So we appreciate you, and we gonna continue growing, man. One at a time. Right? Men going God's way, pursuits of virtue, episode 1. Brothers, be blessed. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.